Dehancer is what it says it is. I've had it for a couple of weeks. I've pretty quickly become comfortable with Dehancer, what it does, how to use it within the workflow, node tree structure that you might use in DaVinci Resolve. I was reached out to by Dehancer, got an opportunity to try it, get my hands on it, and in exchange I can offer it to you. So if you watch this and you want it, there's a code that'll get you 10% off. It's in the description, get you a little bit of a discount if you decide to buy Dehancer for yourself. I will get a small commission off of that sale. However, Dehancer put no stipulations whatsoever on what I say or what the review is, so this is an honest review and some thoughts, and I think it's a positive one overall. Dehancer is a really good product. There will be another time for me to go through maybe an example of a grading sort of workflow front to back in DaVinci and how I use Dehancer and have been using it. Instead, for this initial video and sort of my introduction of it to you here on the channel, I wanted to go over a few of the things that I like the best, a few of the things that maybe are a little bit underrated, and a couple of suggestions that I would give to you if you were to try it, if you were to try it for the first time. What is film emulation? All right, yeah, pretty broad topic. If you look at actual film, 35 millimeter film, movies we used to watch in the 60s and 70s and 80s and whatever, you see a big broad spectrum of looks. Big budget comedy like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World from 1963. It's bright and colorful and rich and dense. Good, the Bad, the Ugly, the spaghetti western, Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood. Those are different, more gritty, less colorful, more grainy. I think that's fair to say. Still film, totally different look. So I say that to say this. For me, in emulating film, it really is all about what exactly are you going for? What is the purpose of the shot you're grading? And because there's a lot of different looks that fall under that film-like description. So keep that in mind as we go through this, because you can really manipulate it in a lot of different ways. And that's one of the positive things I think of Dehancer, is you do have a lot of wiggle room to play with the look. So when I show you an example of a shot that I graded to search for, to try to shoot for a little bit of a film-like look, for me, that's what I'm thinking about, is a little bit more understated. Yes, there's grain. In some cases, a little bit of halation here, there, depending on where the really strongest blown out highlights are. Not a lot of highlight bloom, honestly, unless it's really a specific look. For me, film look, yeah, it's a certain color density, but for me, it's very understated as compared to what a lot of other people may show you and present to you as a film look. Again, not a grading tutorial. Let me show you a couple things I like. First up, the grain module, which is way down the chain. You've already selected, your film stock and, potentially a print stock of how you want it to look, like 2383. But you get down to what Dehancer is offering in its grain module. One, they've taken suggestions of people who did some of these reviews and said, hey, we really would like to have some presets that are already just clickable, 8mm, 16mm, 35mm, 65, and they gave you that, which is really cool. Tip of the cap to the folks at Dehancer for that. But also, you can go into the custom grain. There's a film resolution slider that I really like. Dialing that back, if you zoom in and bump in on your shot and look at it closely, and then as you dial back and pull back that film resolution, you see it, taking some resolution out of some of the finer details. And in some shots you might want that or prefer that as a repair tool, but in others you may want it because less resolution is a little more vintage. I do really like the implementation of halation in the Dehancer plugin and in that particular module. Again, it's customizable. You can pick the preset or you can go into custom, but you can also turn on, the masking and see just where the halation is applying, see where it is, and sort of dial it into taste. Again, for me, less is more on that. When you go back and look at movies, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s that were shot on film and presented that way and projected in theaters, we're seeing digital reproductions of that, so it could be a little different than it presented initially, through a projector, sure. But when you go look at those, seldom do you see really strong across the frame halation on every highlight with this red, glow outline. You just don't see it as much as you might think. And so I think I have in the past sort of overdone the adding of halation, particularly in video film emulation, just because I like it, and someone may see it and it's different than a typical digital shot, and you think, okay, it gives the impression that it's older, shot on film, maybe film like. But in reality, look closely at like look at this shot from The Wizard of Oz. You can look around and zoom in and really try to find, some obvious halation around bright highlights, and it's not everywhere. There's like one or two little jewels in her crown that you may see it. Here's a shot from the Muppets movie, 1979, 35 millimeter film. I think Technicolor, which most of it was, but don't quote me on that. But like in this shot, you look and there's lots of bright highlights, but there's not obvious like red, coming back through the negative halation showing up just in one maybe specific spot. So it's very select where it's actually showing up. The understated less is more approach on halation is good, and because of the way the module works in Dehancer, you're able to customize that, and if I want to dial that back and sort of add it specifically in a few areas, you can do that. I just think it's, and you can adjust the hue. That's another thing too, is as opposed to too red everywhere, which really isn't film light, a little of that red halation, or even more understated yellowish, warmish halation, you can dial that in with the hue slider. I like what Dehancer gives you there. Bloom, glow, highlight, bloom. I don't really use it. It would have to be a really specific shot that I'm trying to portray some, dreamy, glowy, bloomy highlights. I don't want it that much. And so I don't really use it that much. But I will say it is well implemented if you want it. You have the option if you want it. I just don't use it that much. Kind of the same for film damage, okay? Which, yes, anybody that's ever developed film at home, you get your negative, you look closely and you go, holy cow, I didn't realize there was, that much hair and dust floating around, but apparently it is. Unless, again, I have a really specific shot where I'm really trying to just punch the audience with this clear idea that this is a throwback to the old film days, and we have the sound of the projector going in the background and maybe even showing the perforations, and we'll get to that. Otherwise, I wouldn't really need the film damage. Now, on the other hand, film breath and gate weave. Those two modules, again, light grain and halation, I think are two of the best reasons to consider Dehancer. They're very well done, and I can tell, anytime something like that is implemented and it does such a good job, and at the same time it's slowing down your whole system, you know that there's a lot there. Three things that Dehancer offers that are, I think, under discussed and maybe underappreciated. Number one, the monitor module. I can turn on false color. Sort of late in the workflow, I'm late in the process or near or at the end, boom, click false color, it stays on. I can go in anywhere in my node tree or within Dehancer and adjust exposures to get it just like I want within the false. And false color is such a phenomenal exposure tool. They've put it in the right place. It works really well seamlessly. I know it does within DaVinci in my experience, and I really like the ability to do that. Appreciate that. The overscan module. Again, I think this is something that Dehancer added after getting some feedback from other video creators and those who tried, the plugin and gave some suggestions and said it would be nice to have it. And now you just have these presets for different looks, 16 millimeter, 35, different perforations, different sizes. And it's just clickable. It's right there. I don't have all these overlays. And again, it's implemented really nicely where it doesn't look like I just slapped on an overlay that doesn't match my footage. It works with the other modules up the chain, the grain and the gate weave, to kind of seamlessly be a part of your shot when you want that. And you're not going to use it a ton. And I even found that it was neat to pull in one of the overscans and then scale in or zoom in, crop into your shot to get past the perforation on the edge. And now I just kind of have a border around the shot, and I might want that too. So you're going to use it sparingly, but it is well done. I think they did a great job with that. And, again, back up the progression there, color head. I found a couple of times I might get to the end of the workflow and I'm looking at the shot going, something is just not quite, it's like a 1/16 of a degree and I just can't quite, what is it? Maybe it's a color here or a shade here or, kind of a color cast. Well, I can go into the color head, gang the RGB sliders together, and then begin to kind of push and pull those back and forth. It just works well within the plugin without overdoing it and kind of giving it a fake look. It's working really well with what's in there. And when I separate them and I go color for color, I kind of get out of hand. I'm not experienced enough to do one, there. But when I gang them together, I just found I could a lot of times get into the right, color cast and get away from something I didn't like pretty easily by doing that sort of late in the workflow. And I really like the color head sliders. In summary, just a couple of suggestions. Some people have said that, that it's a really well done progression through the modules, like starting at the top with the input and working your way down to, the print, and then working your way down to grain inhalation and working. And I think for the most part that's true. I did find that even for me, like I would find myself kind of going back. I'd get down, to certain spots in the process, and or maybe working with color density inside of the print, but then wanting to go back up to the compression and try to bring that in later. So I found myself jumping around a little bit. I don't think that it was necessarily tried and true that you just go right down the list. So you might be prepared for that and kind of see what you think if you try out Dehancer. I guess this is a suggestion also, far be it from me to even pose as someone who should be giving lots of other people advice about what look you should be going for. But I just think in terms of actual film emulation, a lot of times a little bit of a desaturated look seems to work really well, I felt like, with Dehancer. Who is it for? I think Dehancer is something you're going to want to try. You're going to want to try it out. Watch some tutorials, and I'll have some upcoming about how to incorporate it in your workflow and your color spaces within DaVinci Resolve. If you do that right, you're going to find some good results, I think. So if you're someone who doesn't already have a film emulation plugin that you really believe in, that it backwards and forwards and it's working for you, or you don't already have sort of your own custom node tree and workflow from raw/log, into right on down to your grain in terms of a custom film emulation like this, where if you don't already have that stuff ironed out, then I think giving Dehancer a try is worth it for you. I would absolutely use Dehancer, grain, halation, film breadth, and gate weave behind that already tried and true process. Those are that good from Dehancer. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps. Again, if you want to purchase Dehancer, there's a code in the description. Just use Matt Wyatt Media at checkout. You get 10% off. I will get a small commission on that purchase. Let me know what you think as well. Thanks for watching.